and welcome back. This is Christina here with Why Not Be Authentic? Don't scroll, just listen. I'm so excited as we have an amazing magician guest today who has graciously said that he would be a part of this podcast. And as you guys know, I'm a huge advocate of mental health. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you guys our first guest ever on the Why Not Be Authentic podcast, and that is Kody Hildebrand. Now, if you don't know Kody Hildebrand, you have got to watch his magic. It is amazing. Has over 1 million followers all over social media. He featured in clients including Caesars Entertainment, Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, Marriott Hotels and Resort, just to name a few, and over 1,000 performances worldwide. So without further ado, Kody Hildebrand.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. This is exciting.
Of course. It's been an amazing year. And I know you and I have spoke prior to us doing this podcast. And as you know, I advocate for mental health. And you yourself have actually talked about the struggles that you have had. But before we dive into that, I'd love to get a little bit of your history and who you are and what you do besides what I just introduced, just so people can know a little bit more about you.
Yeah. So I consider myself to be both a magician and a comedian. I've always loved like being on a stage in front of people, just entertaining people. For the longest time, this is actually one thing a lot of people don't actually know. I actually really wanted to be a musician before I became a magician for the longest. And I really thought I was going to be like a professional guitarist when I grew up.
Hey,
And
still do it.
for sure. Just life had other plans, and my calling ended up being magic, which took me completely by surprise. If you were to talk to me when I was like just getting out of high school that this is what I was going to be doing, I would have laughed and said, "There's no way." So it's been amazing. It's been life changing, literally, and it's honestly like I couldn't be happier because of it. So
I'm so excited to hear that. So I have a question for you. And I've done this,
yes.
right? I'm a nurse by trade, was a
Okay.
sales rep selling infusions, and now I'm a mental health advocate and doing podcasts. But when did you decide to kind of switch gears on as far as what you wanted to do for a living?
So I first like really started getting into magic when I was like 19 years old. And that was 2013.
Okay.
So I think maybe like 2 months in, I started realizing like picking up on how people were receiving it. I would do magic for just random people just out and about minding their business. And you could see just like the visible excitement and joy that they had. Like these are grown adults who looked like kids going to Disney for the first time. So I think, honestly, I think 2 months into doing magic, I'm like, this is it. Like, got this. This is your life now.
Yeah, it's fulfilling, right? It was just that
Mhm.
fulfilling nature,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is really cool.
It was honestly just like that feeling of I can make other people happy and I can bring just joy, excitement, and wonder to people's otherwise just day to day lives when they least expect it. And it's that was enough, honestly. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's so fulfilling when you find your passion and you do
Mhm.
something. And for me, anything that I've ever chosen out of my profession or career or any career changes I've made is
Yeah.
because if I don't have that fulfilling, that just, right, then I get burned out
Right.
really easily, right? Now, besides the
Yep.
magic, which
Yep.
we're gonna go back to your magic because I think we should see a
Of
little
course.
something. I didn't tell you that, but we should see a little magic
Okay.
trick before the end of this.
Of
Switching
course.
gears a little bit, you're also a dad, right?
I am a dad. Yeah, I've got a beautiful little 2-year-old girl. She is everything to me. I love this kid more than I love honestly anything, including my wife. But this
It's a true feeling. Like they are your heart and
Mhm.
soul. They're everything.
Oh yeah. She's the best. She's crazy, but she's also two
Yeah.
of every single day is amazing because of that kid. So yeah, I love her so much.
Yeah. The first time, guys, we met via Zoom. Actually, my husband's a big fan of Kody. He was like, "Oh my gosh, you got to watch this magician." And so that's how I connected with Kody on TikTok. And the first time we Zoomed, I saw his little girl and I just melted because mine are 8 and 10, almost 9 on Sunday and 10. And
Oh.
I was like, "Oh, the 2-year old, wait for that 3-year-old's day."
Yeah, I remember that very well because I remember I was like, terrible twos, blah blah blah, and you were just like, "Oh, just wait, three, it gets worse." I'm like, "Why would you say that?"
They don't warn you about the terrible
Mhm.
threes.
I- From what I was told, when they're two, they're testing boundaries, and then once they turn 3 years old, they're no longer boundaries. They're testing you as a parent
Right.
to see like where they can get away with X, Y, and Z. And my wife really wants to do the whole like what's it called, gentle parenting. She wants to do the gentle parenting thing, which I'm on board for. Like, I'm not the passive parenting, which a lot of people confuse it with, which is just let them do what they want and they get away with everything.
Mhm.
It's more the idea of like natural consequences.
We didn't have gentle
Yeah.
parenting when my kids were little,
Nope.
so that's
I
amazing.
I was definitely not gently parented. I promise you that.
Me neither, which is probably why we're here today.
Right.
And I'm sorry, there's a little bit of delay, but that's okay. It's our new world of Zoom, right? Well, switching gears. So you're a magician,
Honestly.
you're a husband, you're a dad of the terrible
Mhm.
two, sweet little girl. But when I came across you on TikTok, it was when you made a post and my husband tagged me in it. And I'm gonna read this, I'm gonna quote this, okay? It said it was on October 18th
Okay.
of this past year. And you said, "I'm sorry, I've been MIA for basically the last month, everybody. I've been going through some really serious mental health issues and need time to get better. I hope y'all can forgive me." And I just wanted to pause. I read
Mhm.
that, reread that in preparation for this Zoom call, and it broke my heart, right? Because you're going through, and that's what we're here today is to talk about mental health and to hear stories from all walks of life.
Right.
Because there is such a stigma associated with it. And I think the more that we talk about it, the more that we can stop that stigma associated with it and help more people. But what really caught my attention in that
I
post
agree.
is you apologized more than once. Again, which is something I would do too. You are such a giving person and there for your, I want to say patients, nurse by trade, your customers, your
Yeah.
viewers, your fan club, right? But you felt the need to
Yeah.
apologize to them while you were going through this hard time. So I wanted to ask you if you
Mhm.
could elaborate on that a little bit. What was going through your mind when you wrote that post?
Okay, so I am a textbook people pleaser. But I also very, very easily dismiss my own personal needs a lot. And when I finally get to the point where I need to assert my own needs or assert my own personal boundaries with something, I feel like that's honestly like an inconvenience basically to those around me, and I have now become a burden on those that I care about, including the people that follow me on social media. Even though like I have to do something for myself, I'm no longer making it about them, which is usually what I try to do.
Right.
So to do that, I was just with like so much like guilt and shame and overall like just an overall like sense of disappointment in myself, just because I needed to take time for myself to get better.
I can relate to everything that you just said so much.
Mhm.
Guys, we have put off this meeting. I don't know how many times have we rescheduled this, 3 or 4, right? And it was
I
it was
think
my
three times.
fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was my fault in
Yeah,
January
dude.
or two, yeah. But January for me was a shit month, and a lot of stuff happened, and I remember feeling exactly what you're saying because now I'm doing this as a living. I'm live streaming. I'm
Right.
advocating for mental health. I've got all these projects we're working on, And I had so many people that were like, Christina, where are you? They were going in my husband's lives on TikTok and they were messaging me. And I felt so guilty because I had to step back because I
Hmm.
wasn't good. Like I had a
Right.
lot going on and I've been struggling with depression and anxiety and the list goes on. And I remember feeling exactly what you feel, so guilty that I could not just get it together so that I could be there for everyone else. And I feel like, especially when we as human beings do something like our passion is helping other people, I guess you could call us light workers, is what a lot of people
Yeah.
say. We have a tendency though to neglect ourselves and neglect our self care and our prioritizing our mental health. And
Mhm.
I just want to applaud you for taking the time to say, hey, look, guys, I need to step back and I need to refocus and I need to take care of me before I come back. Now, the apologies, I think you never need to apologize for taking time for yourself because I think if more people talk about that, then more people won't feel so guilty for it. But I applaud you for taking the time to acknowledge that, hey, I'm not good right now and I got to step back and I got to take time and get better. Um, Now we haven't really dove into, what you've battled with, what you've struggled with, and this is a safe space and whatever you feel comfortable with. But I'd love for you to share for our viewers, you know, maybe a snippet or whatever you're comfortable with sharing, the struggles and what's really been going on mentally when you wrote that statement.
Yeah. So, um, effectively a month prior to posting that, basically, I'm not gonna really, I don't want to get into like the nitty gritty details, but because I've actually worked really hard to like work through
Get it?
it.
I get it.
But
Yeah.
basically, an old wound got reopened, and it turns out it was a lot worse than I remember it being. A lot of details were kept from me, and all of those details came to light. That put me into probably one of the worst depressions I've ever been in since, God, maybe since when my parents got divorced when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that, like, it really messed me up. It really put me into a place that I didn't like. I shut all of my friends out. I shut my family out. I was struggling to get out of bed. I'm calling out from work way too much because I just wanted to stay in bed and honestly cry all day. Um and one of the biggest things was I actually stopped eating like a lot. I cut myself down to maybe one meal every 2 or 3 days. Because I felt so miserable and so depressed, and then there was this like sense of just shame that came with it because I'm not supposed to feel that way because I'm a man. I'm not supposed to get sad. I'm not supposed to feel depressed. I'm supposed to pick myself up and take myself day by day and just let the world not give two shits about how, I feel, because no one cares about when a man gets sad. So anytime I got upset or I felt that shame, I felt like I wasn't worthy or deserving of like food, and like I didn't deserve to eat. I actually ended up losing like 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Because of it. Like my wedding ring actually no longer fits properly because it's too big on my finger. Um and it's crazy. It was a very, very dark place in my life. um I still have periodic moments here and there. Like, this was back in September. I want to
Yeah.
just point out this was like mid-September when this started, and like healing and progressing is obviously a journey. It's going to take time to do so, but um I am definitely doing much better now than I was then.
Yeah.
And um I'll still have moments here and there where like it all comes back, but I've learned a lot since then on how to deal with it and how to tell myself, hey, you know, what happened happened. It's in the past. You can let it go. That's not your reality now. It's not your problem anymore.
Right.
Stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you and I first zoomed in
Mhm.
September, or it was October, so it was coming right
Yeah.
off of that. And I shared with you that it was actually coming right off of mine. Mine was like August. It was a very similar situation. I think now, knowing what I know, it's complex PTSD, just a
Yeah.
series of traumatic events that I just
Oh
numbed
yeah.
myself. Yeah, I just numbed myself to it. And now that I'm in
Mhm.
my 30s and I'm a parent, it like just whoosh came just, and I did the exact same thing as you. I laid in bed and I cried every day and I
Mhm.
didn't work. And I've never felt that lonely and scared and depressed. And it's such a scary feeling. And I just remember when you and I first talked, I was like, oh, I know exactly what you were feeling. And, you know, taking the steps and using tools, which I'm going to ask you, what
Mhm.
tools and resources you use to kind of help you get, because you're right. It's not a button. It doesn't just go away. Like
Yeah.
this is a continuous transformation healing journey. And one day
Mhm.
is going to be great and the next day's may not be, right? But
Right.
we're healing. And in that process, you have to feel all the pain to heal.
Yeah.
But you brought up another good point that I really did want to talk to you about, which is men's mental health. You just
Mhm.
stated that, men, they're not supposed to be sad. Men are supposed to, just keep going and get over it.
Yeah.
And um, I feel, and you can tell me if what you think, and but I feel like this is such a topic that is
Mhm.
definitely not talked about enough. And I
Oh
think
sure.
that is why the suicide rates are higher in men than women,
Mhm.
because they just feel alone. They feel guilty. They
Mhm.
feel just ashamed.
Mhm.
And through this journey of starting this process, I have met so many men that have similar stories and said exactly what you said. Like, I felt like I couldn't talk about it. I'm a man.
Sure. Okay. So, oh God, where do I even start? I apologize early. Am I allowed to swear on this?
This is podcast. You can do
Oh,
whatever you
okay.
want.
So no one gives a flying fuck about men and how men are supposed to feel because the stigma and the overall like way that men are supposed to present themselves are just, big, strong, and like just men, right? And the second a man even remotely starts to show emotions, like take a look at do you remember that interview with that was just Will Smith and his wife was telling him about how she basically groomed one of her son's friends into being like a lover for her
Yes, I know
and how that
exactly what you're talking about. It was
and
on their Red Talk or Table Talk or
yes, and that just
yeah.
made him break down into silent but like gushing tears.
Mhm.
That got turned into a meme.
Which is
Like
horrible.
people took that and they turned it into just a meme, which is a like the one of the biggest examples I can come up with for how little people care
Yeah.
about when a man gets upset.
Yeah.
And um I I understand that there are a lot of men that are not, good guys, right? You have
Yeah.
like the nice guys. You have the men who are just walking red flags, who yell and scream and shout when their football team gets, behind a touchdown,
Right.
like during the middle of a game. You have men who straight up hit their wives, beat their kids. You have
Mhm.
men who go out for a pack of cigarettes and never come home. Like there's a lot of ain't shit men out there, but there also are people who are just trying to live their lives, who are trying to love and support their families as best as they can. But when it comes time for them to need that same kind of support,
Mhm.
it's just not there. I can't tell you how many times I tried to express a concern or express when something was bothering me to my wife or even to my mom growing up as a kid. And
Yeah.
that just sparked a whole argument. And it turned into a big fucking problem when all I said was, listen, this bothers me. And it would really mean a lot if like you could understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And it happens so much with just so many men. Like we try to express our concerns to women and they'll flip it around and be like, okay, I hear how you're feeling, but this is now how I feel because of what you said, and you need to apologize for that.
Mhm.
And that's so fucked up
It
because it's discrediting everything we just said. It's like invalidating our feelings, and it just makes us want to keep everything inside even more.
yeah.
And all guys want is to feel heard, is to feel validated, and to just feel like we were appreciated and we matter.
Right.
Like that's it.
Right. You're so right. Like it comes back to being empathetic, right? Not just
Mhm.
compassionate but or
Right.
like being empathetic
Mhm.
and trying to listen with the intent to not try to fix things or argue, but with the intent to be there for someone. And I
Yeah.
think you brought up your mom. I think our parents and their parents, like back in the day, even us growing up, like you weren't allowed to talk about your feelings. It was not an okay thing to do, right? Like you just had to, everything's fine, especially for
Right.
men,
Right.
especially one thing I am proud of, I am so proud, by the way. I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl, the multiple mental health commercials that they had on the Super Bowl. It was the first time I've ever seen that for like Super Bowl commercials. And so I'm optimistic that we are changing the way things are happening so people can feel, women and men alike can feel more comfortable talking about it.
Mhm.
But to your point, you just want to be human and you want people to understand, like, especially if you're a good person, I work my ass off.
Mhm.
I'm a loving dad or mom and
Right.
parent, but I'm human and I
Mhm.
need someone to listen to me. And it's okay for things to bother me,
Right.
And I'm just so proud of you for coming on here and going on TikTok. I mean, you have almost 800,000 followers on TikTok alone, and your vulnerability and letting people know that you're struggling, it's something to be really proud of because you're going to help so many people, so many men that are or have been in the same situation as you. I mean, you look at Robin Williams. I always think of
Yeah.
Robin Williams,
Yeah.
right?
Me too.
That one hurt me. When he passed
Yeah.
away, I think I literally cried. I grew up
Yeah.
watching him and he was hilarious and someone that you never thought struggled with mental health, but he obviously did, right?
It's funny you brought him up too because I remember uh my first day going to therapy in God years, like since high school. My shrink was like, I'm just letting you know right now, therapy isn't here to like cure you.
Right.
It's here to help you live better with yourself, but for you to also move past whatever you need. And I'm like, that's great because I'm not really looking to be cured because I like being funny.
Yeah.
Um, and like a lot of people who have like my issues, Robin's issues, like the funniest people are the people who go through the most.
Struggling. Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson's another one.
Oh yeah, and he's advocated like medicine, like medication, which I
Yeah.
think is great. I think it's great. There's no shame in taking medication, and even if that's not for you, smoke a joint. Who cares? Like,
Oh, right? I mean, it's pretty much almost legal everywhere. And
right,
and guys, we're not here to say go, this is just our story we're sharing, right?
right,
But
right, right, right.
but no, I think that My hope is that and that's why I started this, right? Is because there
Mhm.
is such a stigma associated with mental health. And for women, for men, for no matter how you identify, no matter if you're rich or poor, famous or not, educated or not, a parent or not, whatever it doesn't matter. Like mental health
Mhm.
disabilities and struggles do not discriminate. There's over 200
Mhm.
mental health diagnoses, and it doesn't discriminate. And the more that we talk about it and we share our stories, the more that someone's going to listen and say, "Oh my gosh, it's not just me." Did you hear about, it was like a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, the man that drove his car off of the Virginia Beach pier?
Oh my God, no.
It was
Oh,
absolutely horrible, and I don't know the exact details of it. So all I do know is that it was caught on TikTok. Like it was caught.
damn. Damn.
And he drove his car off the pier. And it took a couple days for them to get the car out and get him out, but it was intentional. I don't know the circumstances of why he did it, right? And sometimes we'll never know those things.
Yeah.
But it just reinforces why we have got to come together and
Mhm.
talk about our struggles and normalize that it's okay to struggle, and it's even more okay to talk about it,
I agree.
especially for men. Because I
Yeah.
had a friend that I lost that committed suicide over the summer, and I hadn't seen him in 10 years. Which then I felt guilty because I was like, God, I hadn't seen him in 10 years. Like, what if I would have stayed in contact with him?
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, I know we can't save the world, but if we can save one person by sharing our stories
Yeah.
and what we were feeling and how we got through it, then that means the world to me, you know? And I just hope you know how brave you are to share your vulnerability and your story, because I guarantee you when this launches on YouTube and this story comes out, you are going to have so many men that are going to come that if they haven't already followed you, that are following you, that are like, hey, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, because I felt like I never could share my story.
That's honestly, that's all I could hope for. Like, I don't, I don't, I appreciate you saying it, but I don't think that like I'm brave. I don't see myself as being brave or stronger than anybody else. I
Yeah.
just want to help.
Yeah.
That's it. I honestly just care more about helping others than what people's perception of me is. And that's really it. I just need everybody, men, like guys, gals, and non-binary pals alike. I
Yeah.
need them all to know like it doesn't matter what your struggles are or where you come from. We all have our shit.
Hmm.
And it's how we choose to deal with it and like handle it that matters, because this is what I think a lot of people don't understand, because there's a lot of people out there who need they need to have the knowledge that like it's a choice to get better. Like it really is a choice to get better.
It is.
There's so many goddamn people who live day by day depressed, anxious, shameful, and they don't want to do anything about it.
Mhm.
Maybe it's because they're not in a financial position to get the help they need, but there's also a lot of people who just really like the pity party.
Right. Right.
And those people are never going to get better. Those people, the people that just live in like their pity party world, they're you gotta like they need like the biggest kick in the ass, I think, more than anybody else, because they're the ones that really need some fucking help.
Yeah.
But it like I said, it doesn't matter who, what, where you are. If you can get help, fucking get help.
And there's nothing to be ashamed of. There is
No,
nothing to be ashamed of with
no.
taking medication if you need
Mhm.
medication and are prescribed it from a
Yeah.
psychiatrist. There
Mhm.
is nothing, by the way, Medication by the Collection. If you haven't
Mhm.
listened to that song, you have got to listen to that song. He's actually going to be on my show next week, which I'm really excited
Okay.
about. But you have to listen to his song. His song saved me. And it was basically saying, like, it's okay to be on medication. It's okay to do whatever you have to do in a healthy manner,
Mhm.
right? You have to want to get better, first of all,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And I know, when you're stuck in that bed and you are crying your eyes out and you
Yeah.
don't want to eat and you don't want to talk to anybody and you isolate, you don't answer your phone because I do the same thing. I don't want to talk to
Mhm.
nobody. I don't want to get out of bed and go get help. But then when that feeling comes, or at least for me, when it was like, oh my God, if I don't get help, this is not going to be good. That was
Mhm.
the kick in my ass, right? That made me go
Yeah.
get help. Plus, I'm a mom of two. Like, what kind of
Right.
example is that, right? And that's what kept going through my head. Did
Mhm.
anything like that go through your head being a parent with what you were feeling?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember feeling I remember breaking down. I cried literally all day. Like all day.
Yeah.
And I remember my daughter walking into my bedroom, seeing like my head like in my hands. I'm sobbing uncontrollably. And I felt even worse because of that, because one thing I never wanted to have happen
Yeah.
was to let my kids see me cry. I never wanted for that to happen, like ever.
Right.
And she needs me. Like she's 2. She just learned how to walk. Like
Right.
she's still figuring out what words are.
Right.
And she needs me, and I can't put all of that on my wife. Like, this is a
Right.
team effort kind of a thing, right? This
Yeah.
that's just how parents are supposed to be. We each handle 50% of the workload.
Right.
And every now and again, it's okay for one of you to pick up the other's slack a little bit. Like, it's okay to be 70-30 or 80-20 or 90-10 or even 100-0 every now and again with each
Right.
other. But to have that be the case for days, weeks, months in a row, that's not okay. And eventually I had to just pick myself up and just start helping again and just being around the house and just trying to be better and do better.
Right.
I need it's really important to me that like my daughter sees what a role model both of her parents are, because that's our job. We're supposed to set the bar for her for everything
Hmm.
as she gets older, whether it's friends, um, idols she might have in people later on in life. When she starts dating, good God, when she starts dating,
I know.
um, I want my daughter to not have to feel the need to be like, "Fuck you, dad. I'm gonna date the guy in the leather jacket with the bike, like the motorcycle, just to piss you off."
Right.
I want her to like get butterflies in her stomach when she meets like her first crush and come home and be like, "Daddy, daddy, I met a boy," and he's like, "Yay," or "I met a girl," and yay. Like, I don't like I just want her to be able to come home and be like, "I met somebody and I really really like them."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't want her to feel afraid of her parents or to feel like she has to hide things
Right.
from us. So I had to really pull myself up, and I'll admit I did kind of go a little bit into that pity party mode for a little bit, and it didn't
I
feel
think
good.
when you're struggling, it's natural to go into that a little
It is, but it's pulling yourself out, and that's what's important.
bit. Hmm.
Because I know people who love their pity parties,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
it's it's not fun. It's not fun for any of us to be around them when they're like that.
Mm.
Because
Well, and
like,
we want so bad, like, to be, or at least I want my kids to have a
mhm,
better childhood and future than
mhm,
what I had growing up.
same.
And I didn't realize, again, I was in bed for days and days and days, and I did
Mhm,
not realize I should have. But in that mind where I was in that
yeah.
place, I did not realize how bad it was negatively impacting my kids. I mean, my kids are a little older, they're 8 and 10. And Grant would go pick up the kids from school. My daughter would ask him every single day, "Where's mommy? Is she still sleeping? Is she okay?" And that was kind of one of the like kicks in my ass where it was like, "Christina, what are you doing? Like, okay, you're sad, but this
Yeah.
is affecting them. And they
Right.
mean the world to me. And I
Right.
swear to God, I am not going to put them through. I'm going to do my damnedest not to put them through what I went through.
Right.
And I've got
Right.
to show them like it's okay to feel your emotions, but don't go and just kind of sabotage yourself. I mean, my daughter said the other day, she was like, I'm depressed. She was sad because she couldn't get in touch with her friend, but she said, "I'm depressed. I'm going to go to sleep." That's for me and what I
Yeah.
need. So now it's having, it was the kick in my ass that I needed, the kick in your ass that you needed, right? To get up and go,
Yeah.
okay, it's time to get help. Um,
Mhm.
so that brings me to my next question.
Yeah.
As you were going through these emotions and then realizing, okay, I'm not good, I got to get better. What did you do? What steps did you take? What resources and tools did you use and continue to use to get you back mentally in that healthy place?
Yeah. Okay. So, ooh. All right. So one of the things, so to answer that, I have to just like at least explain like a little bit of like a metaphor first. So I apologize.
Yeah.
Um, I learned how to deal with trauma, grief, and all of that. Literally from a Facebook post because I like years ago because I didn't have the emotional maturity or the proper resources to teach me how to deal with my stuff
Right.
for a very long time. And basically what this was is that your trauma, your grief, your triggers are this button, right?
Hmm.
Inside of this little itty bitty box, right? So let's say you have a box that is perfect. Let's say you have a box that's like this big, right?
Okay.
The button is right here and it's that big. There is going to be a little ball bouncing around inside of that box.
Right.
And as that ball bounces around the box, it's gonna hit that button because it's a small box, right? And that's gonna keep triggering all of the thoughts, all of the triggers, all of the trauma, all the grief, the pain, the sadness, the anxieties, all of it, right? But with time, the button's gonna stay the same size, the ball's gonna stay the same size, but the box is gonna get bigger, right? It's going to
Hmm.
get bigger. And then I'm just grabbing what's closest to me. I apologize.
You're
Um,
fine.
and like it's going to play it up. Sorry. It's going to get bigger
True
to
that.
the point where like it's going to be so big, it's never going to touch that button like almost ever. And even when it does hit that button, it's okay because that box being like your mental state and how you're able to handle it has grown. It's gotten bigger, it's gotten stronger. And that's going to be able to help you to get better and to learn how to deal with it. And it's just a matter of time, but
Right.
also getting the resources to learn how to make that box bigger. So I ended up I was already in therapy for myself when this happened and really talking about all of that and getting it all out and just having somebody in a non-judgmental environment just listen was
Mhm.
really really helpful and beneficial. I started seeing a second psych professional. My wife and I actually started going to couples,
Oh,
which
that's good. Yeah.
um I heavily implore all people in relationships. I should also preface we didn't start couples because we were going to get divorced. Like this
Right.
wasn't like a save our marriage kind of thing. This was just like we are having a clear disconnect in our communication and we want to fix that. We want to make that
Right.
better so that way we know how to be there for each other, right? And honestly, it's been amazing. I've loved every second of being in couples and I love our therapist to bits. She is so good at what she does. And I truly implore any couple that's watching this to do the same, whether you have like the best relationship in the world or if you do think like it might be getting close to like, ending things, but you don't want to, like neither of you
Right.
want to, like couples is great. Couples is
Well, and
really, really cool.
you bring up such a good point. So, first of all,
Mhm,
therapy, there's so many people that are against
mhm,
therapy. I'm a huge advocate of it, whether it's for
mhm.
yourself or couples therapy. And I always tell everyone, if you've gone to therapy and you didn't like it, you've got the wrong therapist.
Agreed.
Everybody, men
Agreed.
and women, first of all, men and women are different, right? That's why
Yep.
marriage takes a lot of work because we have just two different, we process things differently, we think differently, our biology is different, our chemical
Mhm.
makeup's different, our hormones are different, all of that, right? So that in itself it's really good for couples therapy to really like understand each other. And I think to your point, the more that you do have a non-biased person, even if
Mm.
it's not to save your marriage, but just for better communication purposes or to understand each other better or to help,
Yeah.
you're struggling, how can we work through this together, those kinds of things. I think the more that we do have an outsider that is a professional that can help with that,
Sure.
it is so good for your marriage. It is so good, and it's good individually, as you're
Right.
healing. That's one of the things in my toolbox that I think is probably the most criticized thing. Either people
Mhm.
love therapy or they hate it, right?
Right.
They also, I think, associate medication or therapy with I'm
Sure.
crazy.
Right.
Everybody in this entire world has stressed, every single
Sure.
individual, about something. If they are
Sure.
stressed about something, that means that's anxiety. Anxiety is a mental
Sure.
health diagnosis. Therefore, every single person in this universe has struggled with a mental health struggle, right?
Right.
But the more that we normalize it and talk about it, and, you know, it's okay to go and have someone talk to. And
Yeah.
if that person doesn't work, maybe it's just not the right person, right?
Agreed.
Not the right. Maybe you guys just don't mesh well together, and that's okay. That just means you
Mhm.
got to find someone else, you know?
And kind of piggybacking off of that too, my personal outlook on things too, like um for some people just want someone that's just there to listen,
Hmm.
and that's perfectly fine. If I'm going to talk to somebody about like this,
Yeah,
I want someone who is really knowledgeable of like all of this
me too.
and is going to be able to tell me this is why this happens, right? Like this is like all of this is going back to this thing that happened, or this is coming from you because this is how you've been programmed to feel. And being able to have like a strong understanding of where everything comes from and listening to somebody who really knows what they're talking about,
Mhm.
man, that did so much.
Doesn't it?
That did so much. I've come to learn things about myself. I've come to learn things about how I am in a relationship. I've come to learn things about how my
I'm
wife
so
is
excited.
in a relationship. And it's incredible. And now I feel like I can actually like navigate through these things a lot better now. Now I have names for things. Now I have like, oh, this is that. And now I understand like, okay, so if these have been like named, like I can find ways on how to fix it or handle it or
Right,
work with it, right?
right.
Instead of just like pushing it all down inside of the
Exactly.
right.
I swear you're in my head. It's so funny you said that. So I am such, and the older I get, the more I'm such a nerd. Maybe it's because I'm a nurse by trade. I don't know, but I geek out on studies, and medicine is
Mhm,
ever changing, and we're learning so much more. And for me, yes, I need to
mhm.
talk about it in therapy, right? And I do take medication right now. Am I going to take it forever? I don't know, but I do take medication as well. But I have to always ask questions and I need to know why. Why? And the
Right.
more that I, in a scientific manner, understand, okay, I developed this. Like, for example, I developed ADHD, was diagnosed last year because of my
Mhm.
childhood trauma. Studies show that if you have endured childhood trauma, you are more likely to develop adult ADHD.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I mean, I worked two jobs in nursing school. I didn't have it then. I did
Yeah.
really bad now, and I
Mhm.
think also it's made my husband and I so much closer because now he's educated more on why
Yeah.
I am now reacting the way I do or the feel the way I do or whatever. And so it's made our marriage so much stronger because now
Mhm.
we're both educated and now you're like, okay, this is why I feel this way. I'm not crazy. We always throw that crazy word around. I'm not.
Yeah.
Stuff happened to my life. This is why I feel this way. This is what I need to do now that I feel this way. This is why I react this way. These are the steps I need to take to get better. And I think the more that we educate ourselves and the more that we advocate for that and say it's okay, the more that
Mhm.
our marriages, I think the divorce rate will decrease. I think it's all about
Oh,
education and trauma and stress, and life is tough more now than ever. Good God, right? Like on the news every day, there's something. And I think the
mhm.
more that we educate ourselves, the more that we can become healthier. But to your point, there's those triggers in that little box, right?
Yeah.
So we got to make that box bigger. I love that analogy because it's not going to go away. We just got to
Right.
educate ourselves enough to make us better so that we're mentally strong, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I'll say this too. One of the other things that like really helped me out too was it's gonna sound weird to some, but the movies that my daughter watches really helped a lot because my kid's been watching, like, we're at the age, she's 2, but now we're at the point where like we're watching Disney movies. A lot of those movies all had like every single movie had a core message they were trying to like, teach. The Lion King, probably the biggest one for me.
I
And
cry
I
every time.
I just want to throw out, yeah, so we all know that one scene that just traumatized all of us collectively as a whole. We also know that when a toddler finds a movie that they like, they want to watch that movie like 5, 6, a million times a day. So I'm watching Mufasa die 5 to 6 to a
Oh.
million times a day. But the other side of that too is it's that part where Rafiki finds adult Simba
Mhm.
and he conks him in the head with the stick. And he's like, "What did you do that for?" And Rafiki's like, "It doesn't matter. It's in the past." And he goes, "Yeah, but it still hurts." And he goes, "Ah, yeah, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it."
Oh, wow. I mean, I remember that part, but I haven't watched
Mhm.
The Lion King in a while.
That was a really important thing for me to listen to and to hear and to like hold on to.
Yeah.
Because it was a problem from the past that sent me into that depression, and I was running from it. I
And I think it
genuinely
is for
was trying
most
to
of us.
run away from my problems.
Yeah.
And instead I wasn't trying to focus on the lessons that I learned, and I took the time after hearing that. And it's crazy that a children's movie did that to me as an adult, but like honestly, it did heal a part of me, which caused me to actually start to get better. There's another example from Frozen 2. Olaf, first of all, if you haven't seen Frozen 2, watch it. I actually think it's better than the first one.
I know we
Um,
saw it, but my kids
mhm,
they were young, so I don't remember Frozen
yeah,
2.
I like that one a lot more than the first one. Olaf has like his own like solo song in the movie, and one of the lines in that song is "growing up means adapting," which hit me again really hard right here and up here because I wasn't adapting to my situation. I was a little rock and I didn't want to change and I didn't want to adapt to the change that was happening. And then the last thing that like really resonated with me was I'm a big fan of Doctor Who, which if you've never seen, highly recommend. It's a sci-fi show from the BBC. It has been going on for 60 years now. It's such an incredible show. There's a part with with the main character, the doctor, where he was talking about pain and trauma and where and like what you do with it
Right.
because he's trying to like prevent like a war from coming because like they're traumatized, they're hurt, and the only way that these aliens know how to lash out is to just cause a war that will kill billions of people because that's the rational thing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So he says to them, he goes, do you want to know what you do with that pain? You want to know where? Want me to tell you where you should put it? He says you hold it tight and you hold it close and you never let go of that pain and you make sure that no one ever has to feel that pain ever again.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
That
deep.
show, that show, even when I thought I was in a healthy mindset, I have cried like a little bitch every time because of that show. There's a
Watch
lot
that.
of hard hitting moments and I love it so much. But yeah,
Watch that. Sure.
they sat with me because like I've always been the kind of person that doesn't want others to feel or go through what I have. I actually talked about this in therapy this week.
You and I
Um
swear to God are like my carbon copy. Like everything I do, I'm serious. Like everything I do
yeah,
is because I do it because that's the way that I would want to feel or be treated.
right.
Right? Which it
Mhm.
seems so easy to me of a concept, but it's so
Yeah.
hard in this world for people. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's just funny because I've worked really hard to grow up into the person that I needed when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And because I had some people that really helped when I was little and growing up, but I didn't have consistent base with me every single day.
Right.
And I really needed that, but I didn't have it. So as I'm growing up, I'm making sure that I could be that person that I needed to be. So that
Mhm.
way when someone else that I know and care about needs that person, I can be there.
Exactly.
But the thing that I've noticed is that like I'm only always doing it for other people and I've never done it for me when the main reason I became this person was to help myself in the first place, but to help myself to me seems so selfish and so um almost unnecessary
Right.
because I could be putting that effort into helping other people. So why would I want to help myself? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Someone told me the other day, it was actually one of my moderators on TikTok, Patricia,
Yeah.
and she said, Christina, when you get on an airplane, they go over the instructions and they say, if the oxygen mask come down, put it on yourself first before you help the person beside of you. Because if you become hypoxic, right, not enough oxygen to your brain, you're going to pass out and you can't help the person beside of you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the same concept when it comes to everything in life, right? Our physical and our mental health. And I think our mental health is the one that it gets overlooked so much. But I just want to say thank you. And I know we're short on time, but
Yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time to. I mean, first of all, I feel like your and my brain are identical. First of all, let me just say that right there. It's like I'm
Are
gonna
you
just
also a huge Star Wars nerd like I am? Are you also a huge Star Wars nerd? Because that would make this like besties.
I'm not. I'm a zombie,
Okay.
people eating people kind of nerd. I know that sounds so crazy.
Okay. Okay.
Dad was the Star Wars or the zombies. I got the zombie part of it. So, but
Okay.
but
Okay.
no,
I got you.
but no, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I feel like we have so much more we could talk about. So if you are open to it, we could do this another time, maybe in the future. But
I'm down for a
before
part two.
yes, and before we depart, is there anyone, if there is someone out there that just say it was someone out there that is having, going through the similar issues that both you and I have gone through this past year, if there's one piece of advice that you could give them, what would that be?
Get help, please. You need to talk to a professional. You need to see somebody, even if you need to go on like what my wife calls a grippy sock vacation,
Yeah,
which is just admitting yourself to the psych ward for like a few days.
exactly.
Do it. Do it. Please do it. Because that's better than leaving yourself alone with, that.
Thoughts. Yeah.
So please get help. If you need help finding help, there's so many resources. All you have to do is go to Google and be like, therapists near me. And that's it. That's literally it. So please, for the love of God, help yourself
Mhm.
because you actually matter. So take care of you, please.
Yeah. Yes, I'm so glad you said that. And listen, guys, if you are having thoughts of hurting yourself or others, please call the suicide hotline 988 and or go to your nearest emergency room. There is no shame in
Mhm.
that. There is no
Nope.
shame in that. And you're not, as generic as it sounds, you're not alone. We may not know each
Mhm.
other, but we're going to be sharing more and more of these stories from people like Kody and other people that have struggled to normalize that it's okay to admit that, you know what, I'm struggling and I need to get help. And I just want to say thank you again for your vulnerability and for sharing your story and for men's mental health. A topic that's not talked about enough, but I'm hoping we can change that going forward. And before we leave, we just need one little thing from you.
I
A
thought it was off the hook. Okay.
just
Um. Okay. Okay. Hang on. Okay, I got it. I was looking around for like a marker, but this will work. This is it's a straw insert from one of my daughter's sippy cups. It's a really quick and simple trick. It just might be a little hard to tell. I know it's a very bright green lighting, might be a little weird, but you can see it up here. You just can't see it down here. But you can see it right up here. You just can't see it down here. That's the problem. However, if you kind of like grab it right up here, you can still see it right over there. Like that's. Oh, wait a second. There we go. Carefully.
he is booking all over the country and I think the world, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure am.
We got to get you for our kids' birthday party. So that'll be coming soon.
That'll be the only kid's birthday party I do this year or ever again. I promise you.
All right, guys. Well, Kody, guys, this is Kody Hildebrand. Again, he is on all the social media handles. He's got over 1 million followers together collaboratively on all the social medias at Hildebrand Magic. And he also has a website, www.hildebrandmagic.com, where you can book your next magic show. And remember, as generic as it sounds, you really aren't alone. We have a lot of stories. This is just the beginning of sharing. Because again, mental health, there's nothing to be ashamed of for talking about it. And we're going to stop the stigma associated with talking about it. And we're going to help so many people. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you again, Kody. And I cannot wait till we have a part two.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. It really means a lot.
Of course. Thank you. All right. And I will catch you next time, guys. If you want to come and join our podcast and talk about your story, please let me know. You can see the contact information right here. And otherwise, we'll see you till next time. Bye.